Hey everyone, welcome to the Oil Drop Podcast number 62. The title of the stream, of course, being We've Lost Game 1 and therefore the entire season. Anyway, this is me, Arunatic5, otherwise known as Arun. With me today is James, otherwise known as Paul-McCartney- on Reddit, and Adam, otherwise known as Shreet44722. We'll be going through some various topics just to start off how the season's been going so far. But I guess just going in order of things that have happened from the end of last podcast, because it's been 3 weeks since we've casted, essentially, is Nurse has been signed. 2 years at $3.2 million. And that just basically is a bridge contract. What were your expectations for this? And do you think that we could have signed a different contract, or are you just happy that Nurse is just finally on the team? I think this is more of a completion off of what we talked about in last cast. James?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the cap hit, I mean, I'm fine with it, to be completely honest with you. I've got no problem with the contract. 2 years bridge deal. It's pretty much what everyone was expecting. Right before Nurse signed his contract, Josh Morrissey in Winnipeg signed. This is like 3 or 4 days before the Nurse contract. So that set the bar there. And Josh Morrissey's cap is $3.15 million. So they're right. The difference, honestly, is pretty negligible. So I'm fine with it. It really shows Nurse, like, prove it, so.
James, I'm just gonna have to ask you to restart your webcam if that's possible. I'm seeing a lovely image of your face, but it's just an image on my screen. Anyway, Adam, you're next.
Thinking the same thing, to be honest. It's the AAV is 3.1. It's literally it's 3 years, it's a 2-year contract. So it's 100% approve me. It's 100% approve me, you deserve it contract. And yeah, I don't know. It's the Morris contract helped out big time because there was some debate about they were close, but they were never really that far apart. The Oilers' wish was obviously to get a long-term deal. That was never going to happen. There's this camp. So 3.1 for 2 years makes sense. There's no NMC, nothing like that. So it's, I don't know. I'd be remiss to call it a good contract.
And I'm just in agreement. I don't really have anything else to add, but I'm just happy that the contract at the end of the day was just signed, right?
Yeah, about time. And you know what? The only issue being he did look quite rusty the first couple of preseason games. He looked kind of rusty from what I saw in the other game, but he wasn't bad. So I think it's just him getting used to playing NHL level hockey again.
Yeah. All right. So the next lovely topic that we have here, if I can just find that.
Well, what do you think? What do you think of the contract? You never mentioned it.
I don't have anything to add. It's just pretty much the same. I'm just happy he signed, and I just want him to get a few more games because the biggest problem in all of this is that we have no defensive depth. We have a bunch of 6'7" defensemen masquerading as number 4 defensemen. Yeah, it's working, by the way, James. Don't worry. And that's pretty much the extent of it. Anyway, next topic is the Oilers just finished. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave that for a little bit later. So let's just continue with our little timeline here. Depth pieces like Pontus Aberg, Jakob Jerabek have left the organization. Primarily, both of them. Aberg was waived, and he was picked up by Anaheim, I believe.
Yeah.
Someone can correct me. And then Jacob Jerabek was traded to, I forget the team.
St. Louis, I think.
Yeah, St. Louis would
Something
make
like
sense. For, I believe it is a 6th-round draft pick. Which isn't too bad considering that Jerabek didn't look great. And do you think that'll come back to hurt us? Adam?
I could care less about Jerabek, to be honest. He was a non-factor in pretty much every game. He had 1 or 2 moments where he looked all right, and then more moments where he looked terrible. In terms of Aberg, I think that one's a bit of an oddity. I thought he would have showed us enough last year that he played well enough in the preseason that it might give him an extra chance, kind of thing. But at the same time, we have 5 or 6 forwards that could be bottom pairing to 7 or to 13th forwards. So if you're not going to play your absolute best in the preseason, then they're going to go with what works.
Mm-hmm.
And with Benson proving that he could be a useful player, don't really have a leg to stand on with Aberg, but I'm a little bit surprised considering how well he fit into the Oilers last year and how quick he is, and that's the kind of game that they're looking to go forward with. So that one, I don't, in terms of bite us back, because he's on Anaheim, it could hurt us, but he's never really going to be an all-star player. So at the same time, they're just depth forwards at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for calling into the radio station today, Adam. And next time is James.
I don't know.
So funny.
Neither of them are obviously important players. Pontus Aberg, I was hopeful that he would be like a fourth liner, but to just let him go, like, I'm honestly pretty indifferent about it. The draft pick that we got from St. Louis is a 6th round one by default, but it turns into a 5th round one if he plays over 50 games this season with the parent club. So, we have to hope that he does well and sticks with the Blues.
Oh, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy at all in all with the trade, because we went from essentially was nothing available for us from Aberg, and being concerned that he was going to take up another contract spot where a rookie could fit in, like a Bear or Bouchard. And now he's not. And, instead of having a hodgepodge and a logjam of 6'7" defensemen, he is a defenseman, right? I always forget what Aberg.
Yeah.
He is, yeah. 6'7" defenseman, where we can actually fit someone good in that position. And with Aberg, I am a little bit more concerned, much like you guys, although not as much, just like you guys. But that being said, Anaheim seems like a really good fit for him, considering that they're looking to get a little bit faster and play a really strong game. But honestly, I don't think he's not a consistent NHLer. That's just the way that I see just the future padding out for him. Regarding was it Aberg, it would have been nice to see if a trade was available, considering we did get him through a trade. But that being said, it's not the end of the world with losing him.
Can you trade a player on a PTO though?
Pardon?
Can you trade a player on a PTO?
Aberg was on a PTO? I thought he was signed.
He might have been.
No, we wouldn't waive him if he was on a PTO.
He came over here in a trade last year for Mark Letestu.
Yeah,
he was still under contract.
Yeah, I think I'm getting confused with someone else. Sorry about that.
No problems. Okay, so that leads us to
Scotty Upshaw. Was here on a PTO.
Yeah, Scotty Upshaw was on a PTO, and then he got he failed his first medical, got his second medical, but in the end he was still cut.
Yeah.
And then that leads us to Game 1, which was played in Gothenburg. I always forget the name of the place.
Gothenburg, Sweden.
And the game was fantastic. We won the game 5-2. Nothing was wrong with the team. We're going to win the Stanley Cup. Oh, wait, no, that's wrong. We lost 5-2. And the one Oilers positive to pull out of this is that Taylor Hall did not get a point in this game. Adam, what are your thoughts?
I missed the majority of it, but from watching the goals back, we got scored on for the first time, or on the first shot of the first game again this year.
15 times last season. That happened 15 times last season.
I don't understand why that's such a thing with this team. Like it's either preparation or it's Talbot's preparation, or I genuinely just don't know if it's luck at this point, but it's confusing the hell out of me. Then you have the second pen, the second period, we fell apart. It was 1-1 after the first, and I think it was 3-1, 4-1 after the second. yeah, 4-4-1, and then ended up being 4-2, 5-2 as the end result. But it was, I don't know, it was not the best way to start. McDavid logged something like 26 minutes of ice time, which was more than any other defenseman. To be fair, I think people blowing that up far more than it should. There was something posted on our hockey, a bunch of people are ripping into us, and we have a 5-day gap before our next game. It's the first game of the season. McDavid's our best player. We're down,
and we don't play for
goals.
another 3 games.
It's like, let's be real. It makes sense to do it. It's not like it's great if he's playing that every night. There's an issue, but that's not a problem I have. I guess my major problem is how we're starting games. And the goals against Talbot weren't stellar. He didn't get a lot of defensive help, but they weren't stellar. And the defense being not good. Our breakouts have gone backwards again, apparently. Is a cause for concern moving forward. That's definitely what I'm going to watch in the second game is our breakouts. Apparently they were either by McDavid or around the boards, and that's what we did last year and 3 years ago, and it didn't work.
James.
Yeah, it was a frustrating game. It is only one game,
yeah.
but
by the way,
sorry.
Aberg is now on waivers. I just got a notification a minute ago.
Oh,
so that was well. Sorry, I didn't interrupt for that. So he's now on waivers.
Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not able to mute a freaking audio clip. Why is this auto playing? Fucking.
All right. Anyway, James.
I don't know. Lucic played well, which was weird, but the defense was bad, and Talbot gave up a really bad goal. Like the one that was like the first shot of the game. I didn't know that happened 15 times last year. That's actually insane.
Yeah.
I had no idea that happened. That's like cartoon levels of bullshit. And then I think it was New Jersey's third goal. Talbot, I think he thought it was going to be icing, and he just kind of left it behind the net, and it got scooped up and scored on him. Like that was stupid. And
I mean,
don't know.
At the same time, you were not expecting that to be.
Still.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, that's not acceptable. And the defense they have no ability to move the puck, I feel like. I mean, even people that are supposed to be able to do it, like Clefbaum and Nurse, all they do is just like fire it on the boards, up and out. And I don't know, man. I don't get it. It's only one game, but I was not impressed at all.
By the way, worth noting that 15 games last season, that's 18.3% of the season we started down a goal on the first shot of the game.
Yeah, that's
not good.
That's actually pretty crazy.
That's absurd. Almost 20% of our games we started down one goal on the first shot of the game.
No, I agree. My biggest concern out of the game is the fact that we had four power plays, and we could only muster 19 shots on net.
Yeah.
4 power plays. We killed 2. We allowed them. We didn't successfully kill 2. We had to kill 2 power plays. We allowed 1 goal. And 4 power plays, and all we could muster was 19. We couldn't even break 20 shots on net. Are you kidding me with that? That's pathetic. It's not just everyone's harping on, defense was really bad. You know, Talbot wasn't in sync and all that kind of shit. I'm blaming the offense for this game. The offense had every goddamn opportunity to try to put at least shots on fucking net. We got outshot by 8 shots, and we had 2 more power plays. That's just pathetic.
It's causing concern. The confusing
that was
thing
the
to me
reason why McDavid was being played so much. Everyone is like, McDavid got played 26 or how many minutes is it exactly? I'm going to be accurate here. 23 minutes and 30 seconds. He got played exactly that much. Only Nurse got played more than him. And I don't know with that one, because the only thing that stands out to me throughout all of it is the fact that McDavid played 4 minutes and 17 seconds of power play time. He didn't play any minutes shorthanded. But when you need McDavid to set up all the goals and that's the only source of offense, you're not going to win the season. You're not gonna get very far. It's like every goddamn problem from last season reared its ugly head this first game.
I mean,
and that's what has everyone concerned.
On that note, how long of a leash does McClellan have this year? How long of a leash does Chiarelli have this year? If this is going to be, if we have a bad September, now, and obviously we're jumping the gun here because the title of the podcast implies it, but if we're going, like, for example, I think it was Low Tide predicted 3-6-1 for October, and we get to mid-November and we still haven't improved. Is that it? Do we see another coaching change? Do we see another management change, or are they just going to go straight through to Christmas and hope for the love of God they can turn it around?
I think that they'll let them turn it around or try to turn it around. And one of the tricks in the GM's bag of tricks is to fire the coach.
We'll be firing the coach. End of October,
McClellan will be gone before Chiarelli.
End of October, I'm predicting that McClellan is gone. Assuming that we keep going at the same pace that we're going. And then the sad thing in all of that is because in October, so for listeners that haven't watched or listened to our podcast past, we've talked about this a few times, but we have the worst schedule of any NHL team for October because we start in Sweden, we have a 3-day break, then we play the Bruins, then we have a goal every second day with a 1-day break between the Predators game and Penguins game as an extra day break. That's it. Other than that, we're constantly playing games. We're on an Eastern Conference road trip for most of it, except for a few home games right at the beginning. And we're playing fairly good teams throughout the entirety of it, playing the Bruins twice, the Jets, the Predators, the Penguins. Oh, the Predators twice, who we have not beaten a single time in the past 3 seasons, by the way. We've lost 3 constant seasons against the Predators. And that's our schedule for October. So in all likelihood, we will lose most of the games in October. McClellan will be fired. And then we go to the best schedule in the league where we have a lot of breaks. We get to play teams when they're tired and we're rested. And we don't have very many bad timings for games. And whoever comes into the fold, assuming that they can, do a good enough job, will probably allow Chiarelli to stick on for another year as GM because he'll do good enough.
Now, let's not go into full-on
hyperbole,
pessimistic. Like it's been one game again. There's 82-game season, but it'll be a little bit interesting because to me at the same time for September, if we see the exact same team as last year, the team that ringed the puck around the board, the power play was a failure, discipline was an issue at times. We saw no offensive support. We saw slow puck play. We saw terrible turnovers. If that team is still here, then it also means that McClellan's not doing his job. Mm-hmm. So to me, that doesn't justify that McClellan should keep his job. Now, you guys know I'm a big McClellan fan. I have been since we hired him and before we hired him. And, he's one of the best coaches of the millennia so far. But if he's going to continue with a team where he makes no major impact on them when they're playing that poorly, even if the team doesn't have the tools to succeed, there should be certain things that do improve. If they don't, it's kind of indicative that he's either lost the team or that he's not doing his job properly.
I mean, Adam, I understand where you're coming from with that, but fundamentally, if you look at it, how much of the team from last season has really changed? Nothing has changed. At some point, you have to stop and go what's available to the coach is so bad that this is the best he can do with it.
But that's what I'm saying. That's even more indicative of the fact that there should be changes. In 2 years, you should see changes in certain parts of the game. It might not be everything because the team isn't good. I'm never going to argue that Chiarelli did an amazing job with the decor. The forward is the deepest in the league, but you should see marked changes in especially things like the power play, where McClellan say took it over at the end of the season, or the breakouts especially. If the breakouts are still Adam level breakouts were just ringing the puck around the boards and hoping to God the defense was to stop it, then that to me is meaning that you're not getting through to your players and you don't have a game plan in place for hard pressure on the forecheck. And that to me is a coaching issue along with a personnel issue. They're always intertwined. But if your team doesn't change and your strategies don't change, that to me is a coaching problem.
I understand, and the only reason that I'm bringing the objection for you is that, I mean, you look at a player like Russell. He's always had breakout problems. He's always had problems. Was it making the first pass? And then you sign him to a 4x4 NMC. It's not going to suddenly make the problems go away because the contract is an NMC.
I don't disagree that, but you can also coach players to learn better behaviors. Like Darnell Nurse 2 years ago had probably the worst breakout I've ever seen in the playoffs, which led to a goal against the Ducks. Mm-hmm. Last year he was
Benning
better.
was bad on that play. I will 100% always say Benning was horrible on that play.
But they were on a change, and Nurse straight rung the puck around the board. So if you go back, it's all on Nurse. Benning was not in position, but it was all on Nurse. Anyway, what I'm saying is that if you're not coaching your players to change their game, and some players won't. Russell is who he is now. He's a 8-9 year veteran. He's not going to change a whole lot. Mm-hmm. But if you're not changing, if you're not having your strategies implemented to a certain process, you're not getting through to your players. Mm-hmm. To me, like I'm not saying fire McClellan, but I'd much rather have Chiarelli leave beforehand. But I don't think you can blame one person alone in this situation.
James, I will let you get a point in here. One thing that I want to point out, and this is actually a really big cause for concern for me. Clefbaum played like 20 seconds short, so 20 minutes and 41 seconds last game. Of that, 3.5 minutes was power play time, and about 1 minute and 15 was shorthanded time. So 5-on-5, let's estimate about... Going a bit, 3, 16, 15 minutes of even strength time. Would you guys agree?
Yep.
About that much?
Probably about that, yeah.
Benning played more ice time, not just even strength. In total, he played 21 minutes and 17 seconds. Of that, only a minute of power play time and only about 50 seconds of shorthanded time, which amounts to about 19 minutes of even strength time.
Why was he on for so much?
Because he was, I believe, one of the main partners to Nurse. And Nurse played the most minutes at 24 minutes.
Okay. Huh.
And it's just a gigantic-ass question mark. Because Larson played less than 20 minutes. He played 19 minutes. Of that, 1 minute and 20 seconds was shorthanded. Like, I think we would all agree that our first pairing is essentially Clefbaum and Larson. Or perhaps even Clefbaum and Nurse. Or Larson and Nurse. Whatever you want to do of those three. Mm-hmm. Why are two of them playing less minutes than arguably our worst defenseman last season? And I would suggest one of our worst defensemen that has gotten constant NHL time over the past 3 seasons. Mind you, to stay on an NHL lineup is always impressive, but that's the point I want to make. James, if you want to try it.
Why is he getting more time? At this point, hell if I know. Like, I'm not going to know what's going on inside McClellan's head. I mean, you look at the lineup and it's like, okay, so the first pairing is, in my mind, it's Clefbaum and it's Larson. And then the second pairing, Nurse and Russell. And then your third pairing, I don't know, Benning and Garrison, or Benning and, I guess, Bouchard at this point, which is like, what the fuck? Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. Early season blenders. I really have no idea.
Because this is just next level early season blender. I mean, I don't like plus minus as a statistic. I'm not a huge fan of it. But when two of your players are the only player, or two of your defensemen are the only defenseman with a minus, and they're both -3, that's a stat that stands up.
Yeah.
And that is
it's worth
Nurse
noting,
and Benning at -3.
it's worth noting too. So the fourth line I think was Koskinen, Kara, and Brodziak, and they all played 10 minutes or less.
Tobias Reeder, sorry.
Oh, Reeder was in the fourth. Reeder played 9 minutes. I thought he was on the second line.
Nope.
Cassian
was third line. He just played less minutes. Sorry.
Russell Bouchard were the third pairing. They played about 14. So the split between the defensemen is a pretty dramatic fall from the first pairing, which had roughly 20-some minutes, or should have had 20-some minutes. And I guess you have, I don't know. I guess in theory, it may be that Clefbaum and Larson were playing power plays so that they were more tired, but they're your top defensemen. They should be playing more 5-on-5, if anything. You should only be playing one defenseman on the power play. The split doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
You know what kills me? You know what just kills me is, you know who we're just like in my mind. I'm just remembering about is Andre Sekera. God, what a difference he would make now, man.
He would.
My God.
He would. Puck movement. He would kill all the shin pads, so he can just fucking everybody else.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he kills the shin pads because he gets, in an opportunity to shoot the puck.
Yeah.
That means that we're not in our own zone. We've broken out. We are creating offensive pressure. So what if he hits a shin pad? Don't worry, someone will pick up the rebound.
Yeah, and offensively, 30, 35 points. He can play 20 minutes a game, every single game. God, he would make such a difference.
Yeah, and throughout all of this, the biggest standout to me, not just in terms of minutes played, not in terms of who played the most minutes, is who also played the least minutes. That's Bouchard, obviously. But then it's also Chris Russell. He played 14 and a half minutes. We're playing $4 million to a guy to play 14 and a half minutes in a game. There's a defenseman.
It's basically Nikitin all over again.
Yeah, this is Nikita Nikitin.
At least Nikitin, at least Russell block shots, but I mean, why the hell? And it's the same thing, guys. But they both have NMC'd. They're both. Was Shirley signed? Did Shirley sign McKean, or is that McT? I think McT signed.
No, McT signed Nikitin.
So. I mean, I guess each GM has to have one of those contracts where it's it doesn't quite make sense. It ends up being useless, and it's a terrible defenseman. It must be an Oilers thing because it doesn't happen to many other teams. But I don't know. Just one of those weird ones where.
I remember Nikitin's contract is only 2 years as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was. Thank fuck for that. He was awful. Oh. Did we bury him in the AHL the second year?
I thought we bought him out.
No, we traded Nikitin. No, we didn't buy him out. We buried him in the AHL. I'll double check.
Okay.
Wow, we've blanked that out from our memory.
Yeah, to be fair, that was about 6 years ago, and I don't really give a shit about him, so.
Well, I gotta find out now.
Yeah, I'll find out. Don't worry. You guys keep going. So I guess off of this, what are your predictions for the Oilers this year?
I don't know.
Adam. Okay, all three of us don't need to find it. I can find it. I have double monitors. You guys handle this.
All right. I already found it.
We traded him for Russell.
Did we trade him for Russell?
We traded him for Russell.
Oh, man, that's...
Oh, yeah, we did.
That explains a lot.
No, we made the comparison without even realizing.
Oh man, that's brutal. Predictions for the season. I mean, again, bias aside, I'm gonna ignore the first game because it was pretty horrific. We're a bubble team. At the end of the day, we're never a guaranteed playoff team, especially with Sekera out. Our D-core needs to improve. We need to have Clefbaum, Larson, and Nurse all step up. Maybe even have Benning play half decent for once. There's a real love for Benning in Edmonton that I think the three of us don't really understand. Me and Maroon especially, I know for a fact. He doesn't stand out dramatically. I find he often makes more critical mistakes at awful points than anyone else. But aside from that, if Talbot can play doesn't even have to play Vezina level like he did 2 years ago. As long as he plays starting goalie level, we have Koskinen who can fill in and back him up for 20, 25 games a season, so we're not running Talbot in the ground. The forwards produce a reasonable amount of points, and then the defensemen just aren't god-awful. We're a bubble team. And that's just the nature of the Western Conference this year, too, because holy hell, that's between the Sharks getting Carlson and the Ducks not looking half bad and the Kings having resurgence and Vegas being good and the Canucks for some reason, well, they blew it last night, but I played all right. The Flames got stronger in theory again. Like there's the Pacific and the West as a whole is a bloodbath this year.
Yeah.
And so for us to be a bubble team, we need to play well and not just like, oh, okay, we'll kind of be there at the end. Like we need to play well to be a bubble team. So I have us outside of the playoffs right now just because of where we're at. I think we finish between 20 and 22nd in the league. And it's going to be a weird offseason next year if that happens.
And I'm in agreement. I think with the Sekera injury, I actually think that we're a little bit lower. I had us originally clocked in at 88 points this season. I think we're going to go only to about 86, which is not a huge drop, but still that's a ways away from a playoff finish. And pretty much in agreement with you on all of this. Honestly, like I don't see a lot of the Oilers' problems changing until we get a GM that knows how to GM in this era. Like, genuinely, that's what I think. Because Chiarelli's busy GMing like he did in late 2000s, late 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things need to click for us to really make the playoffs. You know, some teams are going to make it without getting out of second gear, you know. You know some teams are going to be unbelievable this year. We're not one of those teams, you know. We need Talbot to be what he was in 2016, 2017. We need the top line of McDavid, Nugent, Ratty to have great chemistry. We need players like Lucic to rebound. We need players like Puljujarvi to take a major step forward. We need the defense to not suck. There's a lot of things that need to happen. Otherwise, we got a lot of warm bodies on the bench, and that's pretty much it.
And my concern is that if we don't lose Chiarelli this offseason, he's going to do something drastic because he has to. Like trade Nuge or Yamamoto or Puljujarvi or Nurse or Klefbom, or like a major piece is going to be gone, and it's going to be detrimental to the team.
Yeah.
And it's so, I hate having to think like this because it's been 10 years of just 12 years of a bombardment. We've had one good season, and then hope got up the next season, and it was so disappointing last year that I can't help feel like I'm reverting back to the Hope era fan, where I'm like, oh, well, this could probably work, and then we fucked up this season, so everything's gonna suck now. And it's just like every single time something goes wrong, it's like, or goes right, it's like, okay, what 5 other things can go wrong that's gonna send us back 5 years? When is the next reel going to start? Who's the next big pick going to be? Well, who is the star we're going to trade next, and he's going to blow up in another city? Like it feels, this pessimism is just rampant, and I don't understand why I can't have the faith in the team I did before, and that's because I guess we've been burned too many times. But it's just this pervasive.
It is
pessimism.
Time
I hate it.
Inject some optimism into all of this. So you know what? October is going to be shit. We know October is going to be shit. But after that, we have one of the best schedules in the league. Honestly, I think we can turn it around. And I don't think its season's going to be as bad as we are all saying it will be.
No.
It's not going to be great. But bubble team also implies that we can be within the bubble.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I would like to see some sort of research as to how much a favorable schedule actually impacts you. I don't know how you quantify that, but
you can't really.
Aberg tried to do it for us.
You can't do it. But I mean, I'm not banking on a favorable schedule having us making the playoffs.
Yeah, it's even with the favorable schedule, when you have the bad parts, you need to play well enough and the bad parts to negate them with your good play and then some. And I don't know if we're a team that can negate the rough parts of the season enough to make the playoffs when it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what good teams do, is when they hit tough stretches, they play well enough to either maintain even or just barely lose a losing record. And then in the good games, they crush everybody to the point where that they have enough points to then stave off dropping the standings when they hit the rough stretch.
Mm-hmm. Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to avoid depression cast here. So boys. What happened in game 1 of last season?
Didn't we win
What's the score?
Spank Calgary? I can't remember.
We spanked them to what score? Come on, tell me the score.
It was 5-2.
It was 5-2. What did we start this season with?
5-2.
How did we end up last season?
We were awful.
So that means we're gonna be amazing this season, right?
Yeah, we also won our game the season before, like 7-4, and that went well. It did actually go well. So.
Yeah. God.
Anyway, oh my God. Okay, this got like super depressing fast. But one thing I do want to emphasize, even though we're sounding like this is more of a history of the Oilers impacting our current stance rather than what's going on right now. One thing I do want to express for everyone that's watching as well as everyone that's talking right now is it's game 1. There's still 81 other games in this season. If we lost 3-2, if we lost 37-2, it's still 1 out. There's still ways to turn it around. And there's still things that, where shit can work out. Like a Redditor named Anal Crusher put it on Reddit. Winnipeg got destroyed by Dallas. Toronto has lost to Ottawa. No one saw that coming. Pittsburgh
and Montreal.
Pittsburgh got getting destroyed and allowed like 11 goals so far. St. Louis has allowed 10 goals so far. Arizona's put in 73 shots on net with 0 goals to show for it. Shit's whack. But it also means that, shit will go back to normal. And perhaps for this season, normal is Las Vegas normal instead of last season Oilers normal. But yeah, that sort of brings us to a close on Oilers-related topics. Actually, no, one more. Forget about this one. So this one's a toughie. So after we've trash-talked our GM and our coach just a little bit here, let's go on to a shitty move that the GM has made. Koskinen is signed for $2.5 million, and recently, during an interview, Chiarelli revealed that there is a no movement clause associated with this signing. It seems to be an incentive to convince Koskinen, who has not successfully played an NHL game. James is just heading out for a second here. He'll be right back. Who has not successfully played a single NHL game. And he will be official backup, and we will not be able to waive him. We won't be able to trade him. And if we want to terminate his contract in any capacity, we will need him to be the initiator of the contract termination. As in, we screw him over so hard he decides to stop showing up to games. Adam.
You know what? So we signed him to a 2-year contract. Was it?
No, 1-year contract, $2.5 million, no movement clause.
No, it was we signed him to a 2-year contract.
No, 1-year contract. Let me double check.
It's a 2-year contract, 1-year NMC.
Are
Two
you
year,
sure?
2.5 million.
Let me cat friendly this. No, it's a 1-year contract, dude. Oh
Seriously?
yeah, no, it's a 1-year contract. Yeah, I'm right. Screw you, I'm right. Let it be known, chat, that Arunatic Arun is more correct than Sweet 69,420.
Yeah. All right. 1 year, 2.5. So for some reason, I thought we signed him to 2, which is even better than. No worries there. The concern being obviously if he's shit, Talbot has to carry the load again, which puts a massive strain on him and anything he can do in the net. Why you give an NMC to a first-year NHL player seems odd to me, but at the same time, you have to lure him away from the NHL. He would have got comparable money in the KHL, and he was a sought-after free agent. But we had other options in net. Al Montoya may not be great, but he was an option. There's a few other teams that have backups that are still available. We had other options. We didn't have to go with Koskinen, and we did with the NMC, which hopefully doesn't bite us in the ass, but it's one of those things where it's a Shirelli trademark that reflects poorly on him that I don't think is as detrimental as people are making it out to be, but at the same time can actually impact him quite a bit if Koskinen can't hold his own for more than 10 games in net.
Okay, what did I miss?
The fact that just basically like a summary of Koskinen contract and the fact that it's not a huge problem because it's only a 1-year deal, but it still sucks and it's more of a KHL incentive.
Yeah, it's not great, but I mean it's 1 year and I don't have huge expectations for him. We probably paid him twice what you should be paying a backup goalie, but what can you do? I don't really care. I mean, as long as he doesn't completely torpedo the season on his own, it's whatever.
Yep.
Oh gosh, we've become so what's the word for it when we don't care? Apathetic.
Yes.
We're willing to push this aside because this would be the kind of shit where you're like, what the fuck are you doing, GM? Kind of situation, but like we're gotten so used to the NMCs and it's like I guess. Which also brings us a little bit of a concern because at the end of this season, Talbot's contract runs out. So we got to deal with that.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because it all depends on how he plays this year. I mean, based off of last season, he doesn't deserve a raise. Based off of the season before that, I guess, yeah, he
was a Vezina finalist essentially.
Yeah, he was top 3.
Easily.
So
or 4.
He's 32 after this season is over. So
5-year no movement clause. I see it coming.
Yeah, right.
$10 million
at least.
Yeah.
No, minimum.
Give him the Carey Price treatment.
And he gets unlimited cokes.
Nice.
You got to define that one pretty well in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Both. So long as it's not Fortnite, where hockey's fine with it.
You're not wrong.
Do we want to talk about that, by the way? Do we want to talk about that?
No,
I don't want to.
It's hilarious, though. Leidy's comment was the funniest goddamn thing.
I could not care less about the Canucks.
I don't care. Yeah.
Anyway, the Canucks are a hot mess, and Fortnite is the reason. So, continuing on to our NHL-wide topics, Tom Wilson got suspended 20 games for an illegal hit to the head. What are your thoughts? And to add to all of this, Brad Marchand did not get suspended.
I thought it was great, honestly. I mean, Tom Wilson, he's like 23, 24 years old, something like that. He's young, and he's already got a reputation of like the next Matt Cook, you know? Just an idiot, just a complete idiot. And he's forfeiting over $1 million in salary from this suspension. And like, if that doesn't give you incentive to change, I don't know what does. And the guy makes 5.1 mil for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. That's an awful contract right away.
Mm-hmm. The concerning thing for me, there's some stat that came out like he's played.
Yeah, I saw
200
that.
some odd games, has missed like almost 100.
Yeah.
So it's less than that, but it's like there's some really ridiculous stat that's like, in the last.
He's scored X number of goals and he's been suspended for X number of games.
Yes. So he's been suspended more games than he has scored goals in the NHL so far.
No, he scored 6 more goals than he's played.
Yeah,
been suspended.
That was it. Yeah.
He's got 35 career goals and he's been suspended like 29 games or something crazy like that.
Thanks, appreciate it. The weird thing to me is that Tom Wilson is a first line player. He maybe shouldn't be, but he's a first line player in the Caps. He has a guaranteed spot. He doesn't need to try hard to preseason. No one really does unless you're a player trying to make the team. And then he headhunts a player for the second time in 2 years in a preseason game, and the penalty is suitable. He needs to get his shit together. He needs to know that headhunting is not a viable option in the NHL anymore. There's more and more players coming out with long-term issues due to concussions and CTE from every sport, not just the NHL. And in order to so recklessly put someone else's life in your hands and injure them, cause long-term issues, aside from Tom Wilson's career being damaged, which is he should be concerned for that as well at this point, because now he's developing a reputation, and the next game against St. Louis is going to be brutal. He's impacting the lives of others in a way he doesn't even give a fuck about, because if he did, he'd change his behavior. If you really cared and respected the other NHL players, you wouldn't fucking headhunt them like that. You wouldn't cause concussion issues, vertigo issues, long-term damage. Like, it's one concussion can cause issues enough, let alone injuring somebody so bad they're cold for 5 minutes. Like, it's just, it's not acceptable now in modern sports. And I think 20 games is a suitable punishment, and I really hope the NHL doesn't reduce it.
Yeah, that's one thing to note, is that Tom Wilson has, for everyone, I'm just playing a copy of that hit. That's Oscar Sundqvist getting hit by Tom Wilson there. He got ejected immediately for that hit. Here it is at full time in a different angle. But as you can clearly tell here, he goes in from the blind side. He hits the head. It looks initially like a shoulder hit, but he hits high. And it's pretty much a headshot. And this is just a picture of Oscar Sundqvist the next day. I'm not sure if he's having concussion problems. As you can see here, like, very clearly, he gets hit in the head. In order for him to get lacerations in the head, he has to be hit in the head. So that's just a little picture for yourselves. But once again, throughout all of this, it becomes a matter of consistency with the NHL, because Brad Marchand, similar to Domi, jumped, I believe it was... Was
it Ekblad?
No. Domi did Ekblad.
No.
But I'm trying to remember who it was that Brad Marchand jumped.
Oh.
He jumped a player. I don't remember
Lars
the name.
Eller, wasn't it?
Pardon? Lars Eller. Yeah, I think it's Lars Eller. But the thing is that he starts throwing punches, takes off the helmet, starts throwing punches, and then Eller, after getting like 2-3 punches, reacts and starts fighting back. And because he reacted and fought back, the NHL just basically went, "Oh, that's a hockey fight," and went, "No, this isn't a suspension or any kind of discipline." And that's a big problem for me, because, Lars Eller, at the initial thing of that, there's a code to fighting. I'm not a fan of fighting personally, but at the end of the day, I understand it, and I know that there's a code behind it. And if you're not willing to abide by the code of fighting, then and you're willing to jump guys like that, the NHL has indicated in preseason that they'll suspend guys for that. But I guess because, Lars Eller, went back, I guess it's a fight, right? It's not a suspension. And Brad Marchand plays the next game, puts up 5 points, all assists, leads the league in points. Great player, great human being.
What a player.
By the way, Sundqvist has been transferred to LTIR as of yesterday.
It's even worse.
So he was on the 7 to LTIR, so he is having issues because of Tom Wilson. Fuck you, Tom Wilson.
Yeah. This is going to be interesting how it all plays out for all of it. But I guess one of the biggest issues in all of it is like, yeah, the severity of suspensions has gotten worse, but there's still a lacking in consistency.
I was going to say, then, is this a precedent-setting case for George Peros, or is this going to be the more the basis? Because the issue with Wilson is we've seen the NHL say that injuries are an impact. Actually, I remember Sean Burke actually saying something on Reddit about injuries playing an impact in their decision, like severity of injury, penalty on the ice, like whether or not they're a repeat offender within the last, I think it's 80 games, something like that. Might be. Yeah.
I don't know if it sets a precedent for George Peros. I think it sets a precedent for Tom Wilson. I mean, all the other suspensions that he's had, I think that they've been, shorter. They haven't been one of those like holy crap suspensions. So I mean, he has been, I don't know. I think like if he gets suspended again, even for something that is not as bad as that last hit, he's looking at like a half-season suspension at that point.
Yeah, if it's anything related to that, I think he's getting half season. I think if it's severe enough again, he'll get at least 10 games again. Because they can't say, if he cross-checks someone in the back or gets in a fight off the ice, they can't really say, oh well, this is clearly as bad as that hit to the head. So I don't think they'll give him half season for that, but I think they give him another 10 to 12 games. I think Tom Wilson has basically forfeited his right to benefit of the doubt. So anytime something goes wrong, it's going to be a more severe punishment than most of the players would receive. Mm-hmm. With that said, I wouldn't mind the NHL taking a harder line stance on hits to the head specifically. If a hit to the head is bad enough that it warrants a hearing, I think it should be pretty much always a 5+ game suspension. And I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but just with how much a concussion and the impacts and the post-concussion syndrome affects everything about your life and potentially career and your long-term health, I'm not talking 10 years, I'm talking 40, 50 years down the road, then like that could impact their life after hockey in the sense that they won't be able to get a job, or they can't do certain things they used to, or they don't have the same level of ability, and that impacts them and their family going forward. Like it hits to the head are so detrimental to so many players that after their playing years that it's not even like it's all right, it's only one hit kind of thing. It's like that one hit could have major impacts, and I don't think the NHL has taken enough of a hardline stance. I'm almost wondering if it's because of this lawsuit. Like it's almost starting to it's getting into conspiracy theory level for me now, where it's like, why are they not giving him much of a shit? Like the NFL is mediocre at dealing with it, but the NHL is not much better. They're just not.
Maybe. It's not really. You're probably onto something there. I mean, you'll never be able to prove it, but you probably are onto something there. Yeah.
And you know what? Like, I'm never going to come out and say it's a conspiracy, but it's just weird to me that, yeah, they're starting to take it more seriously, but it's taken 8 years, and all these, like, you see all this media attention towards the NFL and Aaron Hernandez, and there's another guy, I can't remember his name right now, but it was a player who killed his wife and daughter, went to the practice field on a practice day. All the coaches were trying to talk about it, but he killed himself as well. And then mental health, they found he had a CTE already developing, and it's just all these players out of the NFL that are having it. And what, we're going to assume that another contact sport in the NHL where you're flying around at 30 kilometers an hour and hitting people that are 220 to 280 pounds isn't going to cause the same issues? Just odd. It's, I don't know.
Honestly, like the biggest backbreaker for me in all of this is that even as we stand here and go, it's nice that the NHL starting to take a hard line stance. It's just hits to the head should just be considered, hits to the head. If it shouldn't be a matter of, was a player injured or not? Was Is it a long-term injury? Is it a repeat offender? It should just be considered, that's a hit to the head. You don't hit to the head at the end of the day. That's it. There's nothing else to it other than that. But still, there's a huge-ass conversation going like, oh, but how bad is it actually?
Did he get the head first? Did he get the shoulder first?
Yeah.
Like, if a player is in a vulnerable position and you hit them in a way that injures them and hits their head in the process, that's a problem. If you hit their shoulder and hit their head, and if they're bending over into it or they lean into the hit, okay, fine. That's maybe a little bit different situation, but you're still hitting their head at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. There's a way to avoid hitting somebody's head, and it's not by driving your shoulder through their fucking head. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll take a long, long time.
I was about to say, a lot of these results and implications are not going to be seen until years down the road. Yeah. So.
But honestly, what I'm hoping for at the end of all of it is the fact that the NHL realizes that there will be consequences. And I'm really hoping that this court case that's going on against the NHL comes out successful. That being said, one other stat that's really a standout for me is the fact that the NHL, I believe it is, set records for the lowest viewership for game ones.
On NBC because they didn't promote
on
them
NBC
at all.
But one thing that I do want to point out is one part. This is sort of a next topic thing. Sorry, this wasn't originally in our plan, but it would be nice to talk about this. If we're not able to, we're not able to. But do you believe that the NHL, like if we took a survey of people that are watching the NHL, it's just getting older and older. Like, what do you think the NHL should do in order to advertise to a younger population? Because the one thing that I would say arguably 100% that the NBA is doing fantastically, even better than the NFL, is advertising to a younger audience. The NHL is simply not doing it. Because right now we're making excuses. We're going, oh, it's NBC. NBC's doing nothing. NBC's doing nothing. Look, NBA is the one that sets up many of the advertising deals where they get exposure for players.
Part of it. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
To give you an idea, we all there's people that hate on Fortnite or whatnot, but they make and was it NBA players show up in video game sponsored ads saying this person likes playing the video game too. It's that's my favorite player for this team. Or I used to always hear about this team. I guess I should watch the game or something. But that's just an example. Right? NHL does none of that. And if it does do it, it'll do strictly NHL games where they're being played. And it'll only do it to a Canadian audience. Because only apparently Canadian kids play video games. That's just the video game example. There are other examples here.
I don't know. To me, it's
a marketing failure as far as I'm concerned.
Economic constraints, in a certain way. I mean, hockey is it's a very expensive sport to play, and I think that enrollment numbers for hockey are going down, and it's difficult to market to kids when they don't play the game. In games like basketball and soccer is on the rise. Humongous numbers of people are flocking to soccer because all you need is a ball. Lots of people just can't afford to play hockey, and it is difficult to market when you don't play the game or you never played the game. You can't even skate. That's not a catch-all, but that. In my mind, I've thought about that for a while, and that absolutely has something to do with it to me.
It's a rarity to find a hockey fan that hasn't played hockey at some point in their life. Like Arun, I know you're an exception to that for sure, but I think I maybe know 3 or 4 people who watch hockey who've never played, and other than Arun, they're all Aussies that live here who watched it back home and just didn't have the means to play it there because there wasn't the access to it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's the economic constraints of hockey are monumental. The just league costs on average for me growing up was about $800 to $900 a year. That doesn't include all the gas you spend on trips because you have to drive 2 to 2.5 hours for most games. That doesn't include gear, which if you're young and you're growing, obviously you're going to need new gear almost every year. You get hand-me-downs, but it's still going to cost you about $300 to $400 a year for gear alone. If you're an average player, you break a couple sticks a year. That's between $100 to $140 a stick, and that's not even the expensive, like the clearance rack. That's not going to the nice stuff. Your skates, need to be more comfortable, so you need to be certain gear. And then, of course, you're actually a good player. Then you start playing a rep, and you got to travel farther. You got to pay team dues, and you got management and tournaments, and more sticks and more gear and better gear, and it adds up. Any sport's expensive. You can buy $600 soccer boots, but hockey, especially because of the surfaces needed, the gear needed, the time you need to put in, is extraordinarily expensive. And aside from that, but even if you want to ignore all that, Arun has a point with marketing. NHL does not market the product very well. They don't have advertisements with players in them. They have promos for the NHL that they show during games or on TSN. They show them playing NHL. Like there's a McDavid commercial of them playing NHL. That's pretty much only exclusively shown in Canada because it's the only market it's viable in. But they don't really advertise in the States. They don't. The NBC Rivalry Night, they'll show once every three commercial breaks for 30 seconds that promotes two teams. It's the Blackhawks and someone else. Like the NHL does not promote at all.
To give you an idea with the top, sorry, James. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just
to give you an idea with the top four leagues in North America. Every single one of them has moved towards. Except for MLB. I honestly think MLB is like the worst. And that's a huge reason why they're constantly like leaking viewership. It's just, was it family, like the whole like America's pastime, and that's what they're clinging on to still. But they've moved on to understanding, we got to do online advertising. We've got to market online. We've got to create streams. We've got to make sure that our product is easily available and viewable. We've got to make sure that, everything that is available to potentially view your product is available, as well as advertising in an online medium. And that's where the NHL is just absolutely garbage. There's quite possibly nothing being done with online interest being derived. Blackouts being a huge thing. Huge thing. Because, why even get, views or an NHL, live pass of the team that you like? Because, your local cast is always blacked out because, you can watch it on TV, and we'd rather you watch it on TV rather than looking at it online. There's no point.
The confusing thing for me is even if you pay for the subscription, you still can't watch it.
You can't watch it. Yeah, you have to pay for another subscription on TV. Most people, especially our ages, have moved on. Like, honestly, if it weren't for the fact that I'm still with my parents at the moment, I would have cut TV like a cord like a long time back because I just don't watch anything on TV. I know it's gonna show up on Netflix, or either that, or I can become go travel to Jamaica and become a pirate of the Caribbean, and it's much of the same. And throughout all of it, it's just a huge matter of you're not recognizing who's marketable, because people keep going, this player isn't marketable. Hockey players aren't that huge popping personalities. And hockey is expensive and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, marketing is about watching your product, not playing your product.
And that's, the TV rights thing to me has irked me so bad over the last few years, because when I lived in Ontario, we paid for Sportsnet West, Sportsnet, like the entire lineup, Sportsnet Pacific through Atlantic. And then I go to watch the game. And because I'm not in Alberta, Saskatchewan, or the Northwest Territories, I cannot watch the Oilers. I pay for the subscription. We pay for the channels. I can't fucking watch it. The only way I could watch it was if I went online and found a stream via Reddit. And that's what I'm going to do every single time. If you're going to force me in a corner, I'm not paying for cable and your $210 package a year for the games, which, by the way, if you buy NHL Game Center or Rogers Game Center Live and you're in Alberta in the viewing area, you will be blacked out, which is the stupidest shit. Mm-hmm. So basically, you either have your TV package that you can watch in your local area, or you have Rogers Game Center Live. And if you're outside of the viewing area, you buy cable, then there's no point. You have to buy the other one. It's an extra cost that you don't need. It's stupid, and there's a reason that viewership for traditional mediums is dropping. That's the reason. Okay. That's it.
I'm just gonna finish this off and close off this topic as well as the stream today, and just say that it's gonna catch up to the NHL. It's caught up to the MLB. It's catching up to the MLB. It'll catch up eventually, trust me. It has catched up to the NFL because they managed to burn, with their whole political stance nonsense, the viewers that were just watching casual, like lifelong viewers. And the NBA is just grabbing onto it and pulling ahead, while the other leagues are learning from their lessons and slowly building. And meanwhile, soccer is pulling in a higher viewership than MLS is pulling in higher viewership than NHL at the moment, especially in some areas where we have very successful NHL teams. And it just comes down to the simple fact that if you keep blaming other people for not marketing your product well, you're going to be stuck in an infinite loop, and you're not going to market your product well. And so long as the NHL doesn't get their head out of their asses with that, I guarantee you next season we will set another record for the lowest viewerships, and it will steadily go downward. And the only time in which we're going to be setting records in the other end is when that odd NHL team that has always been a bubble team for the play for cups makes it to the final and then loses in the final round. Other than that, it's garbage. Anyway, now we have finished up our fantastic stream of pessimism. We have lost game one, and therefore the whole season, and the NHL is collapsing, and everyone has concussions, and everyone is suspended for giving other people those concussions. Thank you very much for joining us on our lovely podcast today, otherwise known as Oil Drop Podcast number 62, lost game one, and therefore the whole season. And this has been Arunatic5 on Reddit. Also with me was James, otherwise known as Paul-McCartney- and Adam, otherwise known as Shweet44722. Thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully our pessimism doesn't catch on with the rest of you, and we will see you next time. Also, like, comment, subscribe. See you.